Okay, it's called Daddy's Hand. This came to me about 3 days ago. Listen. I wake smiling. I'm seeing Daddy's hand resting right in front of me on something wooden, maybe the rail of a crib. His hand is still steady, strong, straightforward. I feel Daddy's loving, protective presence leaning over me. I feel my eyes and head uplifted. Relaxation is slowly streaming. Relaxation is slowly streaming down my limbs, throughout my torso. The sight and sense of Daddy's hand has brought an immense sense of sanctuary to life within me. So before I ask you for a, your reciprocal vision on that, I'll just make a few more comments on that, biographically informative comments. This image of Daddy's hand is reaching me through the many decades since World War II. I think seeing a doctor who has just lost his daughters and 11 relatives speaking on Christian Amanpour and Company news program the night before last has brought my doctor daddy to mind. Despite his current losses, this doctor speaks steadfastly with a strength akin to my daddy's, persistent, caring stamina in the midst of vastly troubled times, infused with thoroughgoing belief in our ability to be people of peace. Would you like to see how your imagination relates to the sight of my daddy's hand?
Yeah, I picture my own father's hand, and I picture his hand with coins in it. When I'm maybe somewhere 4 to 6 years old, and my dad has just gotten home from work, and he's shaking some coins in his hand, and I feel pleasure, feel joy, feel excitement, just glad that my dad has come home and is ready to play a game with me. Um, it's a game we've played many times before, and he's got some coins in his hands and he's shaking them up, and it's almost like I'm supposed to listen to the coins in his hand and tell him how much they all add up to. And I feel this sense of reassurance underneath the excitement, just like this warmth go right across my chest from left to right. I'm excited because it's a guessing game and there's motion to it, and I can hear the sound of the coins inside my dad's big hands, and I just feel this reassurance that my dad is home and he's feeling playful, and he's just taking the time to be with me. It's this reassuringly familiar scene.
What are your body responses? Tell me more.
Feel relaxed. I feel a sense of ease.
Where in particular?
I feel slight tingling. Just the ease. I feel it in my shoulders. Just like I'm not holding some kind of tension, just this downward settling,
Mm-hmm.
relaxation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, something about getting the sense now that whatever my dad's day was like at work, whether it was stressful or hectic, that it's just reassuring that he's home and he's just ready to be present and playful. You see a small smile on his face, and some of the excitement comes up around that, like this, like he's got his playful trickster uh, sparkle in his eye, but also just this very strong. I feel the strength in his arms shaking the coins, and I feel this sense of settling and the safety and
Mm-hmm.
calmness.
Mm-hmm.
Feel it in my back. Feel my back on the chair. Back of my legs on the chair. Yeah, it's a good warm feeling.
Look at his eyes again.
Yeah, his eyes are looking right into mine, and it's a mix of it's a mix of playfulness, like, do you think you can guess how many coins are in here? But there's this seriousness too, like focus up. This is the time to really focus and pay attention. Is conveyed All that's conveyed without words, just by the look in his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Even being however old I am, let's say 5 years old in that image, I just really can read into those different qualities of my father's gaze. And then I see his father too, who I didn't know until he was quite elderly, but I can see my grandfather's eyes also, with his his eyes are smiling more. They don't have that like serious, slightly penetrating gaze of my father's eyes. There's just the more raw playfulness, joyfulness. Haven't seen my grandfather's eyes in a long time. Yeah.
Why do you think they showed up now?
I was just I think as I was seeing my dad's eyes, it was like, without directly thinking of it, I was wondering a little bit, like, what was it like for him as a boy, or of what I'm seeing in my dad's eyes, how much is his dad's eyes shining through from what he experienced. Just had this sense of it extending further back.
Okay, I just want to say that my sense of it is that your eidetic imagination wanted you to see the raw playfulness beyond the seriousness.
Mm,
And I just wanted to point that out because that I think is very much in the nature of our eidetic imagination to take any opportunity it can to show us a next best thing.
mm,
And then I wanted to thank you for that expansion because when we were looking at that image of you fingering your globe and the mountains on your globe, I was wondering where did he get that kind of those powers of observation? So
mm,
I was so tickled to see that this image revealed something of the answer to that your father was really into showing you how to concentrate in that way that it enables you to stay in touch in a way that's so satisfying,
mm,
especially in this medium that we're working in. And um, I'm glad to be able to make it known in this way, the power of a father's attention and how it shapes an attention span that lasts a lifetime. So that seriousness and that ability that you have to sustain concentration in this way, it's just very pleasing to see a source of it in this way.
mm.
Hmm?
Yeah, as soon as you said that, it brought up two examples of my father concentrating on something and then my mother concentrating also.
Uh-huh.
And I'd never thought about my parents concentrating before, or that my ability to was related to my parents, but both of those quickly came in, and I I'm sensing that, I'm getting that now
Let's
in
see
a way
both of
that
those.
a way
Let's
that's very satisfying.
let me see both of them.
Yeah, one is my dad is down the basement and he's working on tools. He's repairing and taking apart a nail gun for like building a house. And there are a lot of parts, a lot of little parts. And I'm just watching him methodically disassemble this tool and lay the parts out. I can picture the rubber ring, the gasket, the top of what that the lid kind of thing on the nail gun, the nails with this kind of gluey yellow tape that held all the nails together in a line. Yeah, these are things I haven't seen in over 40 years. And it feels just really feel it like in the center of my like in my sternum or my solar plexus. It's like the color gold in this just very uh, centered energy right there, and in my arms. It's like that's the concentration, and then the the doing something with that concentration. I feel it in my biceps, just like strength, warmth. That's the first image, and then the other is my dad out in the boat with fishing tackle, just leaning over the tying a knot, getting the knot just right. Similar kind of concentration, and I see my young self looking at him as he's doing that, just taking that in.
Mhm.
I'd never really had that sink in how much I take in from just watching my parents in their everyday life. And then my mom is that sewing machine. And she could sew for hours. Such fine, detailed work with her bobbins and her spool of thread and getting the needle just right. And she had controlled it with a foot pedal, and if she had to, she'd make it go in reverse or go back and forth. And that I pictured my like 3 or 4 year old self with my mom whilst she's doing that. It's like I'm just soaking all that in through osmosis, and she would dump out her little blue and white can of buttons on the floor, and I guess I would look at all those buttons, and somehow I was like practicing concentrating while she was doing her part. Yeah, really lucky to spend that time with both of them. Feel Seeing myself do that with my mom, I feel kind of like my this secondhand sense of being proud. Like my little self was proud of having the job to do there with those buttons, and I can feel that sense of competence in my face and down my neck and shoulders, into my arms. It's like, yeah, I can lean over and do my job just like mom can or dad can.
So what is that doing for you, the adult you now? What is seeing and sensing this doing for the adult
It's
you?
given me this sense of awe, actually. This sense of like, God, I know you say we're made up of all these images and these energy fields, but just the more I do it, it's like, oh, that too comes. There's an origin to this way that I know myself also, where I never thought about the origin of how much I enjoy concentrating on something. I know that I love concentrating on things. Uh, I had never traced that back to my parents and what I learned from them. So it's a sense of awe. It's just like this pause to feel that connection. The awe isn't just about the idea of it. The idea, it's like, yeah, big deal. We learn things from our parents. What else is new? But just the felt experience of it is really striking, really moving. It's 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 promising and reassuring somehow. It makes me feel more flexible in terms of just realizing that, oh, this is where this quality came from. This is where this quality came from. This is where this quality that is I don't like so much came from, but it just makes it all seem more um, workable. Like it can all be worked with more, less fixed, less permanent, more alive, more dynamic than static.
So that's beautiful. That is giving such a good demonstration of what I mean about getting hold of yourself, right? Huh? These are getting hold of the energy fields that you're composed of. and seeing how subtly the differences are, and that how you can choose among them. So that's a wonderful demonstration of how ISM concentration, image, somatic response, and meaning concentration contributes to our sense of ourselves and our integrity and our continuity, without which we are pretty much at a loss as to who we are or where we're coming from or going.
Yeah, you started us off on that one with that image of your father's hands.
Hmm.
So you may have answered it, but I'm not recalling exactly if you did, but that same question you posed to me of like, how does that seeing that inform or touch your adult self? Any after my shares, anything else around that stirred in you?
Well, the thing that impressed me first of all when I saw Daddy's hand, and then it was just alone right in front of me, still, very simple, no drama, just there. And then when I saw it was wooden and I couldn't see what exactly. And then I thought, maybe that's a crib. And then I saw that I was under the protection of the whole arm of him. And so I saw that just one little image could bring in that whole awareness of the structure of protection and being within the embrace of that sense of a father's protective nature. And just that one image just so soon had the power to bring all of that into play. That was, that was still a wonder. And I'm always saying these are the gifts and powers of our imagination. But still in all, our habit of just kind of racing along, we overlook when this is the source of our power and strength. And we need to recognize that, or else we give ourselves short shrift and we don't even really know that we have that power and strength within us. So this is not tiddlywinks that we're doing
Yeah, and
in bringing this to light. It is becoming aware of our strength,
it's
our
interesting that
standing, withstanding,
say that again.
our standing and our withstanding.
Mm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's interesting that that image showed up for you when it did. Out of all the days in your life and all the little vignettes that could have been there, it's like, what do you make of that?
And who would have thought that an old lady nearing 85 would be taking that much comfort, joy, energy, and so on from her father? Probably, you know, at this, I think it had to do with seeing that Israeli doctor. I think, or was he a Palestinian doctor? Being so, I don't know if stalwart is the word for it, but just, I mean, he'd lost both his daughters and 11 relatives, and he's talking on that TV show, saying things I believe, but he wasn't cracking up. So I think that brought out something of my father's comparable inner strength, which enabled my father to not only be an estimable doctor for decades, but also to survive the family havoc.
And then how does that touch you today or inform where you're at in your life?
Oh, it gives me a sense of stability, calm, single-mindedness, forthrightness that wiggly, squirmy old me didn't have when I was just a shy, wormy little kid on into being a squirmy middle-aged woman.
Mhm.
Yeah, it took some doing to bring out these images that have the power to set aside the more negative images that had taken over. I don't know if I made that clear. Did I make that clear?
You
Yeah.
made it totally clear. Yeah. I'm just
So I was, I guess, kind of tickled to think what this could do to our really dismal views of old age, that they,
mm,
if people could know that their wise inner child could keep getting them up in the morning when they're 85 and everything else is falling on their head.
hmm. That's a gift, huh?
Yeah, and the thing is, if that we can show people that we all have it, because we do all have it. It's just that our habits of thinking have deprived us of the awareness. So we just need to follow these new steps for concentration that put us in touch with our bodies to get back in touch with that common sense and those inner energy fields that have been shaping us all our lives.
I was just going to highlight that you said that that image of your father's hand happened just as you were waking up the other morning, right?
Yeah,
And so I'm imagining that it wasn't that you had to sit there and like really work to draw that out. It seems like it just happened.
that's right.
And it happened and you were able to avail yourself of that gift just because of your sense of how to do that, right? Because you've practiced this a lot.
Yes. And I'm so glad you're pointing that out because I was thinking earlier today as I was writing that when I started practicing eidetic imaging when I was at 42, one of the first images that came to mind of my father, I can tell you, he's lying in bed in his darkened bedroom because he's taking a TB recovery nap. And I see the straight line of light coming down to his head. And in those early years of imaging, I hardly ever saw him, but that was one of the most outstanding, the standing images. So my practice has had to extricate him from get him out from under all the negative uh, havoc in the family and the divorce and all that. So it's wonderful that even though I was taken away from him when I was 11 and moved 1,500 miles transcontinentally, taken away from him, um, um, that now he's coming through to me in my old age, and I'm getting to enjoy um, the beneficence of his good nature. It's easy for me to see why he was so highly esteemed as a doctor, and his patients loved him and so on, you know. So and that I don't know exactly how the word for it, but to understand that this strength that which is we're talking about now, enabled him to get through the havoc of all that divorce and losing his only child to, transcontinentally. He took very good care of my half sister, but um, you can imagine how awful that was for him to have to uh, give his only blood child to that distance, So
Yeah.
it's quite marvelous that the presence of his strengths are now coming through to me deeply and clearly. And that's one of the reasons why I want people to know my story, because I see I see that this practice is what has allowed me to have this understanding of parental influences and how you can get out from under the negative ones and really end up enjoying the loving aspects of your parents, no matter how difficult they were when you knew them in the flesh. So, you know, as I often speaking about getting out of the complaint department, I mean, we have a heavy need to get out of the complaint department. And, means all the world to me that now, I mean, as I say many a time, because it's true, I suffered from chronic suicidal ideation from day one until I was 42, and nobody knew how to get me out of there until I started learning how to do this. And then I've been on a gradually inclined plane, rising above and seeing well beyond that. So you can see that this way of concentrating could save a few lives.
Yeah.
Not to mention making old age more fun.
Yeah.